We don't.
Don't call it freaking. That's the kids.
It's on, right? Yeah. I'm going to switch over to my other internet just as soon as it becomes available. We talk about Alan Booker.
I feel live on YouTube, Facebook. Well, maybe it's not that yet. What the fudge? Okay, I'm gonna update Zoom. It might kick me out, and I'll have to be coming back in.
Okay, there. I'm on the other internet.
Sweet.
Can you hear me?
All right, let's see if that works.
There's two Josiahs.
What? There can only be one.
I think that's what you wanted. You're doing something creative.
Yeah.
Okay, we're 2 minutes in.
Yeah, I know. How do I? There we go. Still not doing it. What the hell, Zoom? Zoom is messing up. Yet. All right. Well, I'll have to just put the recording on Facebook. Welcome to Permaculture Smackdown, everybody. Good to have everybody here. Today, I think we're going to talk about rentals and RV parks and doing that permaculture style, things like that, what it all entails. How you doing today, Paul?
I'm a bit pooped. I went out and chopped a fair bit of wood, and I did a few other little errands around the property.
Yeah, and some server work, yeah.
And some server work. We had a server go down. That was a little too much adventure. And then we had somebody come by that we had to take up to the lab to see properties. And so did that. But the whole week has been pretty jam-packed. Trying to get the PDCs and the ATC announced. And I'm going to visit with you more about that later today. And at the same time, I think a big thing that's been really bugging me is how interest in rocket mass heaters is not 20 times bigger than it already is.
Yeah.
And I think today I got a big dose of why. I saw something go up about rocket mass heaters, and a bunch of people just jumped on it and said, that's bullshit. That's not possible. That can't be done. So I kind of feel like the negativity surrounding it is what's gumming up the works. And because it's like it's not bullshit. It's true. You heat your home with 1/10 the wood.
And you had some ideas of why people are thinking it's bullshit, and that like people not doing it right and showing other people, or showing older projects that weren't as efficient as they are now, things like that.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think one of our earliest Smackdowns was 2.5 hours trying to cover a bunch of negative stuff that one person wrote. And now I've put out a bunch of videos that are effectively about, that are in response to that exact same person. And it's kind of like, I guess it's one of those things where if rocket mass heaters are going to get any traction, we got to do the thing like what I normally do with most of permaculture, which is that, we take this on one topic at a time. And if you try to change people's minds about something, you just can't say, oh, you're wrong. then they, you know, they dig in and they're going to be extra against it. And so instead what you got to do is you got to present a little bit of information at a time in a way that's easy for them to digest. And then someday they're going to say rocket mass heaters are awesome. And it's like, but the problem is multifaceted. One is to try and find out like what's going to be the thing that they're fighting against. And then how do you insert the data into their head? And then the next thing is like, you know, how do you get this out into like 100 million brains? And it's kind of like, fuck, this is such an uphill battle.
Well, I mean, that's more, 100 million brains, I think, is more than there are people that even know about permaculture. And getting that into 100 million brains is extremely difficult as well. So, I mean, this isn't like a product someone can just go pick up. And it's even like rain barrels. I don't even think there's 100 million people that have rain barrels in America. You know, some kind of rainwater catchment system, and that's a DIY project. It's a DIY project.
Yeah.
And so, getting enough people to do it. What DIY projects are out there that like 100 million people have done or do?
Gardening.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, so I would estimate that in the United States alone, there's probably 50 million gardeners. That's just a guess.
Right.
50 million, and I imagine half the American population has gardened at one time or another.
Sure, or at least small scale. I mean, you start looking at rural stuff. The rural stuff's going booming with gardening, like people doing pots and things like that on their balconies or whatever.
At the same time, I would say that 99% of the American population is aware of what gardening is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Although I did watch something, it was these kids in school, this grade school in New York City. I think it was New York City, or maybe it was Chicago. Anyway, they were just being shown fruits, different fruits, and they couldn't name what the fruits were. They could get some of them, the fruits and the vegetables, like they just didn't recognize them. Like
what would be a fruit that they didn't recognize?
A carrot, and an apple, and an orange.
So they saw an apple, and they didn't know it was an apple.
Yeah, super simple. It was grade school kids, but
that's a very good point. Along those lines, I have heard of people that have paid to have like a vegetable garden put in at their house, and then they had tomatoes growing, but they didn't know like that it was okay to pick them. So they went to the grocery store and bought tomatoes. And because they saw the tomatoes in their yard, but they're like, okay, I don't know when you pick them. I'm not even sure if those are tomatoes. You know, so there's all this stuff about like, they need somebody to tell them. And I mean, like, they need to be guided just a little bit to get from point A to point B.
So what we need is like rocket mass heater installers in every city or every area, big area, largely populated area.
Some of that, of course, you know, I think that what I'm seeing from that thing today is, and it's something we've covered many times, or I've covered many times, is that you cannot heat your home with 1/10 the wood. That they're thinking that the best you could do is a 5 or 10% improvement, and it's kind of like, well, I've got a video on that very topic, and it's like, but how do I get the video into those into those brains? And
Yeah.
plus, I kind of have to wonder how much of this is also like big energy corporate trolls out there saying whatever they want to say, just to discourage rocket mass heaters.
That could be. I think there is some of that. I don't know how prevalent it is. Like if it's a major. I don't think rocket mass heaters are big enough of a threat yet. But maybe that's the perfect time to jump on it and squash it or try to. There are. So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, it was rocket mass heater related. Okay, so you get. Oh, I was gonna say that I've seen. We started seeing a lot more wood stoves being advertised as like super high efficiency as well. Well, just regular wood stoves that you buy at the store. They're like you run off of 1 cord of wood a year or half a cord of wood a year.
Really?
That's what I've heard. When I talk to people about, I was talking to, I can't remember who it was. It was just online, I think, with someone about rocket mass heaters, and they were saying, yeah, but the high efficiency. Oh no, it was a guy in Montana. He says I was talking to him about rocket mass heaters, and he's like, I just had a stove in my old place, and I was burning a quarter. It was like a high efficiency new kind of stove, regular fireplace, and I was using a quarter wood, or half a quarter wood.
Half a cord of wood each winter.
Yeah, yeah.
So that is comparable to a rocket mass heater.
Right, but I don't know. He didn't have any detail. I was like, can you send me the stove? Like, yeah, I just want the details on it so I can take a look, because that's very interesting. I've heard of a stove being able to do that.
Yeah. So I mean, like I would imagine that. I mean, part of the thing is like with pellet stoves. Then they've got them set up so that they're automatically fed a very small amount, because a big part of it is like, how do you keep warm through the night? And it's kind of like, okay, they could be set up so that they're like a rocket mass heater, where they burn everything very, very thoroughly and completely, very hot. So you burn it in an insulated space, get it up like over 1,500 degrees, and then after that, then you start harvesting the heat.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got the part where it burns as efficiently as a rocket mass heater. But then the next thing that the rocket mass heater does is that its exhaust temperature is like room temperature. It's
Right.
extracted so much heat out of the exhaust that it's sending it out at room temperature. So then you've got a really efficient system. But the next thing that the rocket mass heater does is that it's got the mass, which the ones that you're going to be buying from the stores generally don't have the mass, because, you know, they got to be able to put it on a truck. And the mass, I mean, you're talking about 6 tons. It's like, that isn't going to ship well. So they are, but they can mitigate for that by burning all pellets. So,
Sure, but pellets are expensive. Like rocket mass, you can burn a lot more. Pellets are limited, I think. And it's like, if you don't have access to pellets, what the fuck are you gonna do? You're gonna go get a bunch of little wood and like grind it up?
and that's been another thing. Is a lot of people, like, the pellets were really cheap. Like, they would get several pallets of pellets, and it would be like $60 a pallet or something like that, because it's an industrial waste.
Right.
So they have tons of pellets. Then the mill closes. And then it's like, okay, well, I need pellets for my pellet stove, and it's got to come from 500 miles away. Suddenly, the cost is 10 times higher. So the great thing about a rocket mass heater is that it uses that fuel you just find lying around on the ground.
Yeah.
So Stephen Harris had called me up today, and he was talking about, like, he found something where you could make your own pellets. And so then you have this. You go get all your own wood. You've got this relatively inexpensive contraption that takes all the wood, and you put it in, and then out comes pellets. And it's like, hell.
I don't know. It's still a lot more work, a lot more energy being put into your heat than it needs to be, like, compared to rocket mass.
It's true. It's true. Because then if you've got something that makes pellets, that's going to consume energy.
Yeah. Oh, I could see, pellets being useful in like wood gasification for vehicles. Like if you're going to run a wood gasification system or something similar. Alan says, I had a 16-year-old girl tell me she didn't like the idea of a garden because she didn't like the idea of her food growing out of the dirt. I asked her where she thought her food came from, and she said, I don't know, a factory, I guess, which is pretty close. She might be into aquaponics. No dirt there. But the food's not going to be as good.
So here's Ben. He says, I haven't touched my fire since last night, and the mass is still warm. So we're in the same space. It's like we're running a fire like every other day.
Now Ben's running a regular wood stove, but he built up mass around it, like a hearth, essentially.
Okay. All right. So yeah, and that's a way is to have the mass. But hey, maybe, okay, the bottom line is most people get a conventional wood stove and it'll say 75% efficient on it, but they can run it, and they often do. They'll often run it almost every night at 3% efficiency because they're trying to get the fire to last all night. And then once the fire goes out, then it gets really cold in their house, and they don't like that. So, I think that the neat thing with the pellet stove is that I suspect it could probably be run at like 93% efficiency all the time. You can't run it at 3% efficiency. And so there's a big perk, a big advantage to the pellet stove. And then because the thing generates heat all night long, then it's going to basically be as good as a rocket mass heater in that respect. The only difference being, of course, that you got to buy the pellets. You can't just go out and pick up pellets yourself. And unless this thing about Stephen comes through where you can kind of like, make your own pellets from wood, but blah, 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 blah. But the key is that with a rocket mass heater, you can burn the sticks that you have lying on the ground, and then and then it burns very efficiently. You don't even need very much. It's probably stuff that you already have and that you're trying to get rid of anyway.
Yeah, that's the other thing, is that it can be wood that normally you wouldn't find acceptable for a regular wood burning stove. You can burn. You have a lot more options, or a lot more. You can just go out and pick up stuff that's on the ground. I mean, there are things that you don't want to burn, or that aren't as efficient, or cause more soot buildup, things like that. But with a rocket mass, the heat is so intense that you can burn up a lot more than a regular wood fireplace can, or chimney can.
So Mark Harris says, rain has finally come to Southern California. I just received my PDC certificate from Jeff Lawton. I did a thing when I was, I don't remember when I did it. I think what it was is that it was a time when I was sick, when I was on my back and I couldn't really do anything. And it was maddening. And so I did something where I think what I did is I put out an offer, $100. I said, $100, I'll give you an hour of consultation. And I think I had like 5 takers, and so one of them didn't cash in until this last week. But he took the PDC from Jeff Lawton, and he submitted his design, and he got a green check mark. Ding! There you go. That looks nice. You're all set. And that's it. That's all you get. And I've heard tons of great stuff about the Jeff Lawton. I've heard a lot of people say this exact thing. It's like, no, I wanted to get feedback on my design. So,
I took Jeff Lawton's. I don't know if it was his first. Yeah, I think it was his first online PDC. I thought it was really well done. For an online PDC, he did a really good job. I haven't seen the latest one. I don't know if there's 2 more after the one I took, or what. But yeah, that was. Now he does give a lot of feedback, or at least his staff does. I'm not sure which, in like the questions, or at least he did on the first PDC, the one that I took of his. on like the questions. I could see him and his staff like answering questions that were asked. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't think my design. I don't think. I don't think my design got any like. Here's what's right. Here's what's wrong. Any kind of feedback like that. It was like, good job. You got it.
Mark says we got feedback this time.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Hey, I just saw. So I'm looking at a Pleasant Hearth, 1,800 square foot, 82 EPA certified efficiency, 82%. What? How do they get the percent?
It has to do with how much particulate there is left over. So when you were here, then it's like every once in a while somebody brought a testo meter, and it's like a $1,500 contraption, and then they'd go and stick it in the exhaust of rocket mass heaters as they're being burned, and so basically Peter Vandenberg was saying that of all the rocket mass heaters he's tested, they average about 93% efficiency. And Chris McClellan had one that he was running that was that cottage style rocket mass heater. And that one, it sounded like it was only getting something like 75% efficiency. So that means there's going to be more smoke. 93% is the average for a rocket mass heater. That particular one was less than that, and I can kind of see why. But most of them are much better. But okay, let's say you've got a fancy pants, super expensive conventional wood stove, and it says that it's okay. That one's a pellet stove, isn't it?
Yeah, non-electric pellet. It was just cool looking. This is the one that I was reading off.
And I think you can pick that up at the Home Depot.
I don't know. This one has an electric blower though. Which is another thing. You're gonna burn in electricity with these things.
Well, and I also think that most of them that have an electric blower on them, it's kind of like, okay, you end up cooling the fire to get the extra heat off of it. So you're pulling more heat off of the fire, and that effectively cools the fire, which makes it less efficient. So then the fire isn't going to burn as completely. It's you're going to have more smoke. Let's see. Mark Harris says, Paul, I backed your live stream permaculture design course and appropriate technology course and love the videos. What a great course. Well, good. Oh, and here's Julia. I did the online PDC as well. I think the first one, I got DVDs of all the talks, and I didn't get feedback on my design. Still with my schedule, it's the only way I could cover the material. Okay.
Yeah, Julia, that's I did the same one, I think. Yeah, I got the DVDs. I mean, that's why I did it. I was like, I want all those DVDs. That was cool. And I wanted to see, because we were working on our online PDC, and we wanted to see what Jeff's online PDC was like. Anyway. All right. So today's topic, what I wanted to talk about today.
That's right. You've got a topic.
Yeah. I want to talk about RV parks and using that as a business and permaculturing them. So I've spent a lot of time in RVs. I spent about 3 years in RVs, driving around the country, camping at all kinds of places. There is a lot of RVers out there, and they're becoming much more prevalent. There's a lot more people that are living in their RVs. Like people are, especially the millennials, I think, are really moving into RV living. And so you're starting to see them. Like if you drive around at night and look at Walmart parking lots, all these different parking lots, you'll see lots of RVs sitting in the parking lot. And it's people that are living in them. They're just stopping out because Walmart's like, yeah, you can stay here because you'll probably come in and buy water or something. So there's a lot of people living in RV parks. And when we go to RV parks, a lot of times they're booked solid. And you get shitty RV parks that are available unless you've scheduled ahead of time. But sometimes you get really good ones, or they're really expensive, but they're really nice. But I've yet to see a RV park where like I pull in and hey, there's some food growing right there. Awesome.
Right. You're welcome to tap into our gardens and stuff.
Yes. So I would love to see, and what I would like to do is start out small. What I want to do is start out with like 1 to 5 acre little plots, couple RV spots, something that I can go to, as I travel, have like one in each state. And as I travel around, that's the home base for that state. I go there, and then I have another one available that I'm renting out. And you can rent these things by the day, by the week, by the month. Some people even do yearly rentals for them. My thermostat is driving me nuts. Why? Because it's old?
I was trying to type. There it goes. I think it might be because it's crooked, but I don't know. It might be like the fisheye lens or something.
Anyway, okay. Sorry about the thermostat. So the idea is get an RV park, or get it like a 1 to 5 acre property to start with, permaculture it up, build an RV spot or two on each of these places. Now, what does an RV spot on a permaculture RV spot look like on a piece of property to you, Paul? What do you imagine? There's wastewater you got to deal with, like because they're coming in and they're emptying their tanks.
They got those tanks, but the tanks are full of that blue stuff.
No, not necessarily. Well, yeah, there are some, I guess, that do that, but most of them.
So, okay,
don't. But they do have the microbe killer shit in them.
Okay, so let's suppose for a moment you're gonna do this. I think that something to keep their fucking generators off. Yeah, I hear that. So I would say the first thing on the whole list is that you gotta be able to facilitate those sewage pipe things, and whatever's going to be coming out of those is not going to be permaculture goo. But I mean, you could try to work with them in such a way that it's like, okay, we're set up to handle that, and now let's talk about how to minimize your yuckiness in that space.
Build a willow feeder, like right there.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Here while you're here.
So we've got lots of willow feeders around, and we're going to encourage them to use those. And I would say another thing is that you might want to set up like an outdoor kitchen, and because the thing is like if they use their little kitchen inside, then it's going to dump into the same tank that all the blue stuff goes into, and then you can't use that.
Yep.
You can't separate it. It's all connected together in their RV.
No, they have black water tanks and gray water tanks, and so the gray water tank is what like your sink and shower goes into, and then your black water is your toilet.
Oh, they do have separate lines.
Well, most of them do. New ones, especially. Yes.
I didn't know that. My experience with them is pretty limited, and it's from a long time ago.
But of course, their gray water tanks are going to have like lots of dish soap, stuff like that in them. Another thing that's prevalent in RVs is they dump or they put in microbe killers, like bacteria-eating shit, which isn't that great for permaculture because we like microbes and bacteria for the most part. So you're dealing with that as well. So yes, I would think that I would want to set up composting toilets and say, hey, yes, you can dump here. And what you'll be dumping into is a septic. It's going to be a septic tank, probably with a leach field. That's probably what you just have to do it. But here's the composting toilet. You could use this instead of filling up, because this is like a permaculture site. Have a little sign that explains it. Maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. Depends on the time of year, too. If you got a heated shitter sitting right there and it's winter, probably going to take the heated shitter. You're not going to walk outside for the little heater. But yes, community kitchen. Okay, so community kitchen is a great idea for the bigger RV parks. If it's just 1 or 2 spots, I don't know. Maybe it'd be worth it. But if it's like 5 spots or more, yeah, it'd be cool to have a central or even a couple central places where they can cook barbecue.
Yeah. I think that there's going to be some something to be said for like, okay, you're saying like 5 acres. You're saying 1 to 5 acres. I would say if I was going to try and do something like that, I think I would want to have a minimum of 10 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because it's like when you're growing food, roughly, I mean, you can do it in such a way that 1/4 of an acre will someday feed one small person. And so I've got a YouTube video that kind of covers this, but it's like, all right, let's say that I think an acre is easy for a person. It's easy to come up with enough food for one person, and that's without inputs. That's without a lot of care. With 1/4 of an acre and no inputs, then you're barely feeding one person. Now, some people are going to be like, "Oh, I can feed 50 people off of 1 acre," and it's like, and you're going to be bringing in a couple semi-truckloads a year of organic matter and fertilizer and.
Or even if you're not, it's going to take a lot of work. Like you're going to have to be there maintaining.
Yeah.
Where this would not be one of those kind of things. This is like there are rentals online that you can go sign up for, go park there.
So all I'm trying to do is say, like, if you're trying to do it the permaculture way, which I believe is going to be not heavy on the inputs, like it's self-sustaining system. It turns sun into food. So, you're not hauling material in. Then I would say that you're probably looking at, for a system to be pretty much autopilot and easy to do, 1 acre per human being. And those RVs you're talking about usually come with more than one person. But if any given one is only going to be there for a couple of months, and like no one's going to be there for more than say 6 months or even a year, then it's like I think a lot of people they're going to come and they're going to be there a few weeks until they start coming up to speed about harvesting the food that's there. And then by the time that they're harvesting the food that's there, then they're, heading down the road. Because part of it is we talked earlier in this Smackdown about how there were people where it's like a tomato grew on their property and they drove to the grocery store to go get a tomato. And it's like, I'm not sure if I can eat that, but now I'm all tasted up for tomatoes, so I'm going to go get one. All right. So at the same time, there's going to be a lot of people where it's like, okay, here's a squash. There's a zucchini right there. And they're looking at it, and they're like, that is a pretty looking thing. And I'm going to go into my RV, and I'm going to get on my cell phone, and I'm going to see if they'll deliver pizza.
I mean, that'll happen. That's true. But I think there will be a lot of, especially if you start doing if you do a lot of fruits like berries and you're going to have to stack this. You're going to have to seasonally stack. So always something is growing.
Sure.
So imagine having like a post. You've seen like a hiking trails that they have like their post with a map, like their poster up there with a map on it. It'd be something like that, but with like what time of year is it? What should be fruited? What they look like, and go ahead and eat them. And having those all over the place would be cool.
Now, I do think what would be really awesome is if you can say, and I kind of think I want to word this very carefully. I want to say, let's say that the rate to stay there is high, but it includes 1 meal a day.
Right.
And then the thing is that on site, you've got like at least one person that's bonkers about gardening, and at least one person that's bonkers about cooking. And so then, out comes the food every evening, and then the people that are there are invited to help out if they want, and probably very few of them will.
That'd be like the camp host.
Kind of,
yeah.
Sure. But, I mean, they're going to need to be, you would think that these would be permanent residents, not seasonal. Because my understanding is camp hosts are seasonal.
It depends on the RV park. So, like in Arizona, the warmer places, there are year-round campos. Like they just live there.
Okay. All right.
But in colder climates, like Montana, usually there isn't someone there in the winter because nobody's there in the winter.
So
Everything's going south.
I think the thing to do is that it would be a cool thing and it would work really well, but it would need to be something where I'm imagining to make it cool, to make it awesome. And so if I'm going to paint this picture, here's how I'm going to paint it. Then I'm going to have, like, let's say 15 spots where RVs can park.
Hmm.
It's like, that's great. And then there's going to be, uh, I want to have the 15 different little ways of being able to have them hook up their funk. And if they've got gray water, it's like, okay, I'll process it separately, but I'm still not going to route that to food systems. And I'm going to, I'm not going to try to reuse that water. Well, anyway, I'm still not really excited about that stuff.
Hmm.
But I think rather the thing to do is like, let's hook them all up to our systems and we'll deal with it. And then try to get them to use those systems zero. Try and get it down to zero. Like, try to provide stuff that's more appealing to them outside of their RV.
Right. Yeah. Like having, it'd be cool is having rainwater catchment stuff. So you have like water systems there because oftentimes they plug in their water system, right? They're hooking up to a hose. What if that hose was coming off of a cistern you had of rainwater catchment? That'd be cool.
Well, and another thing is to say, like, okay, we'll hook you up and we're going to meter your water. So, because any water that you bring in is going to be water that goes into our tanks and stuff. And it's like, you could totally do that. And I think a similar thing is going to be for electricity. We're going to totally meter your electricity. And we're going to charge you a lot for the electricity. But the thing is that most people who come here, are using little to no electricity. And we don't allow generators to be run. So we have a nice quiet environment. So I don't know, I would say that metering the water and metering the electricity is a good play. And then it's kind of like, and tell them, yeah, if you run some laptops and some lights and stuff like that, then it ends up being, like $40 a month in electricity. But if people run an air conditioner and or a heater or all these other things, then it ends up being quite a bit more.
Sure. Or
Okay.
what if you're metering those, but right next to them are alternative energy or alternative water systems that they can hook up to that aren't metered. So like you can use the regular water and you can use the regular electricity and you can use the sewage, but you're going to pay for all of that. Now, or here's an outhouse where you can go shit in there, no cost. Here is a solar paneled electric, which won't run your AC at no cost. Here's and here's water from our water catchment system, which you can run. Doesn't have as great a pressure at no cost. That'd be kind of
So
cool. And a good way to teach people about these alternative systems.
I thought about that while we were having the conversation, and I opted out of that because then it's like, oh, okay, I'll hook up to your alternative water, and I'll just fill my tanks with your alternative water, and then I'll have fully pressurized water inside my RV.
That's fine. I don't care.
Okay.
And they're going to be using their the electricity to run your full pressured system from. You got to run electricity.
See, the other thing is now you got to do everything twice. You got to have double the plumbing, double the power.
Yeah, yeah, you do.
And so it's like, yeah. So that's why I was kind of thinking, like, what if you could meter it somehow, and basically say, we'll talk to you. We got all kinds of stuff we could talk to you about to like reduce the amount of energy that you consume while you're here.
Right.
And I think a big one would be we've got a community building. You can come inside and do stuff.
Well, to me, the big thing here is, or a big thing is that you can really teach people about these alternative systems and about permaculture. If there's signs, if you have signs everywhere explaining what this thing is and why it's so great, like a rocket mass heater is at each of these RV parks. This is a rocket mass heater. Here's a video you can watch on it or whatever, just to get people. Oh wow, this is really warm. I can sit on this bench and it's really warm and enjoy this meal from all this food that's around me, that kind of thing. And it's all because of this permaculture stuff I've been reading all about, because it's all over the place. I think that's a cool idea. And it'd be cool to get products. I think that would encourage, if you had like, imagine it was a membership, right? And these things are all over the country. You're a member. Wherever you're at, you stop at an RV park. If a spot's available, you take it. And this would be a great thing for companies to get started, like people to get started with like a rocket mass heater company that supplies and maintains the rocket mass heaters all across the country for each of these RV parks, or at all these RV parks. Or, other kind of like water catchment system companies, solar panel companies, things like that. Okay, so now the other thing is designing these parks in like how you situate, where's the common area, where are each of these RV spots, how much space is in between them, and what's in between them, what occupies the space in between each of these spots.
Okay.
You're dealing with a lot of flat road surface because it's like, and usually concrete is at RV parks. Like you're pulling into a concrete setup for a nice level. It's always level. Now there are RV parks where it's not concrete, of course, but most of them are. They're just like, and some of them are just fucking parking lots. It's just giant parking lot. Those are the worst. There's no grass, nothing.
So I'm going to guess that what you're going to do is like if I'm thinking like if I'm going to facilitate 15, which is kind of like the most I want to do, but you want to be able to do 15 because you can do 15 more efficiently per unit than you can like 5, and it's like, so part of it is it's kind of like I want there to be like 5 full-time adult residents that manage the property.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, minimum of 20 acres. And then each RV is going to park in the middle of an acre. And so, but now part of it is that they got to be able to drive in and then park on a level spot, and then they got to be able to drive forward out, because some people are better at driving RVs than others. So there's got to be a way to do that. You're gonna draw it out. Then I think the thing to do is to do the wagon wheel system, where in the middle is where you're going to have your community house and your community poopers and your community everything, and then there's going to be that one meal a day that is provided. And so then that's going to mean that it's like, okay, there are 2 spots that are currently open, so let's go harvest food from those 2 spots. Then at the same time, there's also going to be this whole thing of like, are you going to have chickens and pigs in the system and moving them around?
Well, you definitely have to have people on site. Like, you have to have people on site if you're going to have that. Unless chickens you could get away with, but you're going to be like, hey, you're going to get chicken shit on your RV.
But I think you're going to need at least 5 people. And here's what I'm thinking is you got 1 person that gardens, you got 1 person that cooks, and you have 3 people that clean up. And here's the thing is that when anybody leaves and they think that they've cleaned it all up. They think, yeah, this is perfectly clean. This is great. You know, if I leave a cleaning deposit, then I'm leaving this so damn clean that's just awesome. And I think that the same thing, those exact same people, when they arrive at a spot that's that level of clean, they're going to say, what a fucking shithole. Did you see what a fucking mess this place is? And so this is called being human. And I think people expect stuff to be very, very clean. And then they also expect the clean police to think that their level of cleanliness is fine when they're exiting.
Sure.
So it turns out, and it's like, and this is, after having hundreds of people come through here, some of whom are like, I'm a pig. I am so sorry. I'm just not, you know, but it's like there's going to be some people that are like that, but for every one of those, there are 15 people that are like, oh, I am so clean. I am so tidy. And I'm here to tell you, they are not. They are fucking slobs. And it's like, we end up shelling out a lot of coin to have things cleaned up afterwards. So cleaning is just the most enormous part of our expenses. Is just trying to make things not look like a shithole. And it's like, so for this example that you're talking about, it is an obviously important thing, but for us too, if you're trying to build community, it's like nearly everybody in the community is kind of like, oh no, shithole is perfectly awesome. I love living in a shithole. And that's the aesthetic that they want. And it's like, so then we're spending enormous amounts of money cleaning up after these people.
I noticed that there's an RV park here pretty close to us that's like very hippie. It's like where the hippies go for their RV park. It's got hot springs and it's community. I mean, there are people that are permanent residents there, but not very clean. It wasn't the cleanest place I've seen, for sure, especially in the long-term residential areas. But that is a good, a very interesting thought on community is the temporary community, where it is community and it's constant community, but people are coming and going all the time, nonstop. People are there. Some people are there year-round. Some people are there for 3 months out of the year. Some people are there 1 month. Some people are just visiting. Some people are there 6 months out of the year. You know, it's so there's constant flow of people and having to manage where these people are staying, because obviously there's got to be rules like if you leave, you're not guaranteed the same spot when you come back unless you're paying for that spot all year round.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some interesting community things. Now this community, they had hot springs so that was their big thing. And like on Monday night was ladies' night, or all the ladies, only ladies could go to the hot springs. I don't think there was a men's night. Men were just fucked, I guess. But I guess men just didn't care about being alone in the hot springs with other men. Not being, because we're not worried about like being looked at, right? I guess that's the thought, is that we want a day where men aren't going to look at us at the at our boobs and stuff at the hot springs. So that's why they have women's night. But men are like, you can look at my junk all day. I don't care. So maybe that's why there's women. Anyway, so there's a community event. They have like a weekly ladies' night or whatever for the hot springs. I don't know that there was. I didn't spend enough time there. We left because it wasn't very nice. And my thought was like, are these people going to steal from me?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Because
that opens up a bunch of issues. I don't think in a permaculture thing can we solve that problem.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
the other thing too is it's kind of like, if you're going to solve that problem, it seems like so often the solution is you got to police stuff, and it's like, and And it's like, but then a lot of permaculture people are going to be like, oh, that's not a very nice thing. But I think security cameras is a great place to start. But yeah, and it's true. And a lot of hippie stuff, I've known some people that's like, oh, and then I got together with this really great group of people and I stayed the night. And when I woke up in the morning, all my shit was gone and they were all gone. I was there by myself. I don't even know if it was like a legal place to be.
Well, I also think that the environment is facilitates the actions, or the mentality of people. So, like, if you go to a place that isn't very clean, like I find that there's less crime in the wealthy RV parks than there is in the non-wealthy RV parks. Now, that could be the clientele, right? Because if you got more money, you're staying here, you're probably not needing to steal from other people. I think, and I should say, like when you start hitting for the middle-class RV parks, that's where it's like, middle-class RV parks, is the neighborhood, the RV park, a nice neighborhood? Like, is it well-kept? Is everything clean? Are the sites clean? I think there's less stealing that goes on there than there are in the unkept or not so nice RV parks. And I think that's mentality. Like, it's just, even though there's nicer things in the wealthier RV parks and or some of the RV parks in the middle class RV parks, I think they get stolen from less than if it's an unkept RV park, like, just because of the environment that people are around.
Let's talk for a moment about the picture that you drew.
Okay. So this would be like, or I imagine this would be like the community center here in the center.
Mm-hmm.
These are the spots, the drives, right? Because
not very centered.
What's that?
It's not very centered.
Well, I mean, I could.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But I've got a comment already, and that is that I feel confident that when you or I bring our RV to this park, which I don't have one, but you have one now.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go there and now it's time to go, that we're going to be able to leave easily. We're gonna drive out without a problem.
Yeah.
And so the thing I mentioned earlier was you need to make it so that way people can leave while still driving forward. And so that might mean that you need to put a little loop on the end of each one of those.
Yeah, the pull-throughs. So the way what that looks like or ends up looking like for those pull-throughs is something like, let me draw a tool. Yep. That. So there's another road. And then one of these exits one of these has to be a connector to the other road instead of a spot. And so these are one ways, right? So it's like this way only, right? So when you get in, you have to go to the right and go around and back out. And then we'll say this, we'll make this one. Our connector. So this road would also be a one-way, and it connects to here, so you can go one way out.
Okay. All right. So now each party has an acre, right?
Sure.
So an acre is a lot of space. You got a lot of real estate in an acre. And so I kind of feel like, and first of all, on your outer ring, do you need to make another road?
Yeah, yeah. Well, these ones would not be pull-throughs. So you'd say these are pull-through sites that are available, and these are not, because I don't want to build roads, that many roads. I might have a walking path or something out here, because this is going to be my zone 4, zone 5 out here.
Okay. All right. And so I guess where I'm going with all of this is I kind of feel like one of the things that I'm going to think about is like if let's say every family goes for a walk every night, and they're going to walk 1 or 2 loops.
Get the dog off the bed. Sorry, go ahead.
And so they're gonna walk one loop or 2 loops, and it's like as they're walking along, then they get to gawk at you and your setup and wave and whatever else.
There's the community part, right?
Sure. And I kind of feel like there's something to be said for like right now I feel like having community. So I'm gonna go down to the community house. And then I think there's also something to be said for right now I don't feel like having community, so I'm going to stay at my site, but I want to sit outside and I want to, appreciate the stuff that I have. All I'm trying to say is that I think that it would be that a lot of people would really appreciate the idea of
food hedges.
Okay. But of course, however it is you drove in there, if people are standing on the road, they can look down that and see your rig, and they can even see into the windows, so they can see. So I guess what I was thinking is that you need to have a certain kind of jog in the road, so that way as people walk by, they can't see your rig at all, and so there's some way of being able to, and I was kind of thinking like rather than what you've drawn, that there would be a way to kind of like you'd have your circle, you'd have just one road, and then what you do is that you pull into the acre, and then you kind of bump in closer to the road, but there'll be like a berm there. And then when you go to leave, then you just drive straight, and it kind of goes towards the middle a little bit, but then back out towards the outer ring. Does this make sense?
Well, okay, so they drive in, let's say they're parking in this one, right? So typically they would drive in and just stop right here on this road. You're saying put a berm where? Okay,
so first of all, I don't suppose there's a way that I can draw, is there?
Yes, you can take control. Go to, I think it's, oops. Oh, I hope I didn't erase it.
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, there should be a way you can request control.
Request remote control.
There you go. Do that.
Click to start the. Okay, I have it now.
So you have green.
All right.
Selected.
So I have green right now. So, all right, I'm gonna stay in this one right here. Okay.
Okay.
So now, is there a way for me to erase this black line?
Yeah, I might erase the whole thing. Go to the eraser here. Oops.
So I don't see those kinds of controls.
Oh, you don't?
What if I right click? What does right click do? Whoa, I just erased. That's fine. We erased that whole thing.
Yep.
And then I can erase that. Oh, you took the controls away from me, you bastard.
There you go. Go for it.
Okay. All right. Oh, there, I got it again. All right. So I got rid of that. That's a swale over there. Okay. Now I want to draw. If I just draw, does it draw? Oh, it kind of does, doesn't it?
There should be a draw button. Are you on? I can select it for you.
Yeah, select for me the draw button.
Okay, draw in what color?
Right now I want black.
You got it.
Okay. All right. I'm not doing it. It's not. Oh, wait, there it is. Now I want to erase what I just drew because it's not what I want.
All right, I'll erase it. Give it. You fucking. There we go. All right. I wish you could see the controls. I wonder why you can't. That's interesting. All right, go ahead. Uh-oh, did we lose Paul? All right, chat. Let me know. Can you hear me or Paul? Ah, Paul's back.
Yeah. Oh, is it just me? I thought the whole thing ended.
Nope, just you, as far as I know.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Can I draw?
Well, I think you're logged in again. See how there's two of you?
Okay. Okay. Request remote control. I do see there's two of me.
There it goes.
Request.
I approve.
Okay. Am I now able to click to start? Okay. All right. So remember, there was like this thing. This you had a road just coming straight out there.
Yeah.
I think what I would do is have something like this. All right.
Okay.
Now, the thing is that you would park here. So then if somebody eyeballs down here, they don't see you. And if they eyeball over here, they don't see you.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
That's a long road.
And then you'd have a big berm right in here.
Okay. It's a lot of road. It's a lot of extra road. But yeah, it does take care of the privacy issue.
Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking like I would like them to be able to have these extra levels of privacy and discretion and being in the middle of, you know, so much greenery, you know, that it's like all the other people really aren't there unless, of course, they follow a trail into the middle where everybody is.
But it does get rid of the need for the inside road.
It does. So I kind of wonder if overall you might have less road.
Right. No. We don't need you anymore. Okay. Now, let's see. You get the picture. Okay. So now those are all over the place.
And then you can do the same kind of thing on the outside side.
Okay. Now, do you think that you would do them like this, like right off the other ones, or would you go like in between? That.
I would say you'd probably end up going in between. Yeah.
It's really hard to draw with a mouse. All right. Interesting.
Oops. All right. I think that a big thing is like, would you want to have more than 15 RVs at your RV park?
Sure, why not? I mean, I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having 100 if if it's successful enough.
Okay.
And
So let me roll back to the big thing that I was pointing out, and that is that you're going to have 5 people full-time year-round
per 20 people or per 20 RVs.
for 15 RVs.
Oh, 15.
Okay, so then with 15 RVs, most RVs are going to have at least 2 people. And some of them are going to have, 4 or 5 or whatever. But let's say it averages 3. So that's 45 people in addition to your staff of 5. And I kind of feel like with those kinds of numbers, you can do 1 meal per day that's provided. And now you can invite all 45 people to participate and help. And you can structure everything so that they can be participating in the growing and the harvesting, and that there's projects lined up for every day, and they can come and they can play in it and whatever else. And you should probably assume that most of them aren't going to do it. So it's something that needs to be done, and at the same time they can participate. Now, of course, there's also going to be tasks like you're going to go to the showers or the bathhouse or whatever, and it's not like any of your residents are going to be like, wow, I sure wish I could clean that. And so it still needs to be cleaned, even though your RVers are not going to want to help out with that one. But they might help to some degree with some of the planting and harvesting and things of that nature. Like, oh, we're going to go get the eggs. And yeah, I want to go collect eggs too. And so...
Or they're like, it's on a daily event thing, right? Here's where you meet up. This time we collect eggs. Here's where you meet up if you want to go for the...
And today, and on the schedule for today, when you get down there, it's like from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, we are harvesting raspberries. And from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, we are making raspberry jam in our canning kitchen. You know, and these are the events, and it does kind of seem like you should have no event last longer than 2 hours. But gathering eggs is probably like 20 minutes, and it's an everyday thing that happens at 6:30 a.m. or something like that. So, I mean, yeah, there's certain schedules, and you can grow into it, and eventually you could find out whether or not you want to expand beyond 15.
Well, next is workshops. So, like, let's say I want to teach a PDC here. Now we got to think of campground sites and where's this stuff going to be taught, things like that. Where's the event center, right? I guess that would be probably, you want to keep it so that it doesn't interrupt everybody else's use. The events don't interrupt the people that are living there or the RVers. They can participate, but they... you don't want it to interrupt what their normal daily, like using the kitchen or whatever would be.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the other thing, too, is it does kind of seem like in time you will want to set the price so that you have 90% capacity. You know, and it's like, because if you've got 100% capacity all the time, then your price is too low. But okay, I'm saying this because I'm kind of thinking like, okay, like let's say you're gonna have a PDC and it's scheduled for 6 months out, and then some people say, okay, I want to come in my RV, and it's like, well, we've got 2 spots available, and during the PDC, and so then you know they could play that game.
Yeah.
See, but at the same time, it's kind of like I'm kind of thinking that if you're going to be doing something like that, it's a larger. This is just a piece of a much larger, more significant property.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm picturing. See that brown line at the bottom? I'm picturing like maybe that's the property line at the bottom, and it's just rectangle or square, you know, that goes up.
Okay.
So like it's a box. Goes up. Like that's or whatever. That's part of the property. So you might have like a campground here, some animal systems here, event center here, things like that.
Okay. So you're kind of thinking like, okay, it's a proper permaculture property that's designed to be something of a permaculture demonstration site that accepts RVs.
That is primarily RVs. Like that is the most that's there.
So like what do RV parks go for? Like right now, if you're like driving around, they're like somebody says, I want to stay for a month. What's the monthly rate?
Like $650 to $1,400, depends on the RV site. Some are $300, but usually it's like $650 a month.
Wow.
That comes with that usually comes with internet. It comes with power and water.
And a place to connect your poopy bits, right?
Maybe a dump station, yeah. Now some don't.
Are you a dump station, or you're like perpetually hooked up to a dump station?
That's what I was going to say, is that some are like they have central dump stations where everybody has to bring their vehicle to dump. And then others have, each place has their own station. And usually it's the state-run ones that have the central dump place, and the private ones have a dump place at every single spot.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So,
So you could do that. You could do a central dump place. Like, this is where you have to dump, everybody. When you're ready, just pull your vehicle in, dump, pull it back out. And usually that's also where they have like garbage cans and recycling cans and stuff for them to put their garbage and the recycling and things like that.
so I would, well, all right. So I kind of feel like the thing to do is to do something that's really nice. I had no idea that the RV parks charge that much money. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, so if you have, so this has got 21 spots, that this little drawing that I did. So that would be, if you're full up year round or per month, you're looking at almost 14 grand a month.
Right, but I would, why be on the low end? I mean, just like you were saying, like if you're on the low end, then the people tend to be sketchier, and you start to worry about theft and stuff.
I would say that's mid range. 650 is like maybe a little low, maybe a little on the lower end of mid range, but it's mid range.
Right.
Yeah. If you want to be on the upper, like the upper, they have swimming pools, gyms, fucking, it's nice. They have TV plugs that you're plugging your TV shit into. Those things are that's where you're 1650 a month.
Have a natural swimming pool then.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I think that you could get that clientele, or maybe like a little lower, but you're 14, maybe 13 to 15 a month, 1,500 a month. If you're doing it right, if you're doing it clean, there's freaking permaculture stuff all over the place. It's really nice. There's food everywhere. There's events happening. It's like when I stay there, if I want my kids to go do the events for the day, my kids are fucking gone. They're doing the events. They're getting the chicken eggs and they're doing the harvesting and shit like that. Or if I want to join in, I can. I mean, you got a babysitter program there almost. Things like that. And I mean, and you bring on entrepreneurs. And this is what I like to do with all the properties, is you bring on entrepreneurs that like, you are the event planner. You're the chicken guy. You do all the meat and chicken stuff, or you're the whatever you think you could do for work here. Bring it on. Let's see if it'll fit in the place where you can actually make some money having your business here on the property.
I suppose another thing you could do is you could have different spots at different rates.
Sure. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. Like the other ones didn't have the pull-throughs like before, the ones out here. Usually the pull-throughs cost more than the non-pull-throughs, right? Because the pull-throughs usually are the big vehicles, and the non-pull-throughs are the smaller vehicles.
So I do not have the experience that you have with RV parks. This is all very, very new to me. I just thought you had to make all of them be a pull-through because somebody's going to try and save some money, and then it's going to turn out to be that they just can't back up their rig. And it's like, I've just seen so much of it. And
here comes the tow truck. You pay him.
I've driven so many different pieces of equipment, but there's a lot of equipment that I've driven, like swathers and combines, where the steering is in the back. And when you drive these things, it's like, man, this is so much smarter. So then when you're in a rig and you hit it, you throw it in reverse, it's like, it's so easy. After you've driven, if you've gotten, a couple hundred hours, on all these different pieces of equipment, it's like, oh yeah, piece of cake. But I'm amazed at how many people, just a regular vehicle, reverse is scary as hell, let alone reverse with a trailer.
Right. It might just be easier on everybody. Yeah.
Well, I've never tried reversing with a double trailer, but I would like to try. I think I could do it.
Usually when you're registering online for your campsite, you're putting in the length of your vehicle, or it's telling you the length of vehicle required. Like you cannot be over this length of vehicle for this spot.
Uh-huh.
And if you're too long, you're out, or you're getting towed out, or whatever. I mean, they have that. That's basically what's in place for systems for that right now. But yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't see why you couldn't. Why not just have everything pull around? If you want to go nice, it's like every side is a pull through. Why not? May as well. But you could. I mean, if you wanted to jam pack it, like fuck, we're always sold out and we're charging good amounts. We want to jam pack some sites in here. I don't know. Then that's when I guess you could put in the non-pull throughs or something, or break these up into 2 spots, maybe.
So I would kind of think that another thing would be that wherever you are parking, that it's totally fenced in, and that you're going to do paddock shift system. And then it's plausible that if a person's going to be there for a month, then we can say, all right, to make your area really thrive, it's good to run hogs in there for a day, and then 2 days later we run the chickens through. But if you're not comfortable with that for whatever reason, then we'll skip you and go on to the next one.
Or you have an open spot, like you have an open space that's really nice, the primo space, and that one is open for whatever site you have to go to. You're like, we're paddocking here for this day. You can go to this site if you want. If you don't want to be here for the paddock, you can go to the primo site for the day.
Okay. All right. So and I even suppose it's possible to say something like, okay, like let's say the rent is, I don't know, when you said this thing, it was like $650 to $1,400, and I'm thinking like, okay, like let's say the rent is $1,000 a month. Then we can say, if you want, we'll just skip your paddock entirely, but that costs $400 extra.
Right.
And maybe they'll be like, they're like, I'd rather have the $400. So
if you're able to fill the site of 21 at $1,000, that's 21 grand a month.
Yeah. But and again, anyway, there's so much I don't know about. I mean, this Smackdown. This is the first time I've ever even considered anybody would want to do something like this. And so it's like, oh, okay. I could kind of see where you're going with it. In fact, I kind of feel, because it's like what I want to do on my land is I keep thinking of it as like a permaculture Disneyland. And so I wish to create something where base camp effectively becomes a place for tourism, and then we can demonstrate permaculture. And there's a bunch of permaculture demonstration. And then the lab becomes a place for residents. And we don't bring tourists through the lab. And the only way people can find out about what's going on at the lab is, when we decide to share videos and that kind of thing. So I like the idea of like, okay, all right, so we've got a system where people can bring their, but now I'm kind of thinking like RVs, we can handle like 3 RVs or so here. If we try to like convert the whole property into an RV thing, I don't know, we might be able to get to the point that we could handle 6 RVs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see being able to do more than 6.
You could have them on the outskirts. You could have it like on the outskirts of the outside lines of the property. And that'd be good fire ring mitigation. But the outskirts could be the RV spots. The inside is...
Well, the thing is that, then they got to go up Volcano Road. And it's like, I mean, we could enhance Volcano Road to be wider, and we could make Volcano Road, it's the turnaround. In order to get turned around to go up Volcano Road, there would have to be a lot of serious, because that's some tough rock right there, to be able to just turn your RV around
Yeah, well, yeah, you're definitely going to want a system where they don't have to ever like stop and reverse. You want it just a nice flow where they're just driving through
So for
wherever.
most of these places where you go, how many RVs can they take?
Oh God. Most I would say most can take like 60. Um, and then I mean there's big ones, man. There's big ones that'll their range. The range is huge, but usually like minimum they're taking 50. They have 50 spots.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
I don't think I'd even want to be involved with something that had 50 spots.
It depends. Like some of these are huge. Really, I mean, I've been to some cool ones in like Southern California, around San Diego, where it's like you're in the woods. They got 100 spots, but each spot is in the woods, which is cool. Like you feel like you're not right next to someone else, even though you are. If you're, if they're having sex, you could probably hear them, something like that. If you're outside or whatever. But but you can't see them. Like sight is the big thing. And there's a lot you can do with that. But that was the cool thing. It was like put hedges around everything around your area, so they feel like they have their own little backyard. They can go pee outside without being looked at or whatever.
Oh, there's a good one. I would say that in your design, something so that you can pee outside anywhere and know that you have complete privacy.
Yeah, that would be the idea. It's like,
yeah, that would be a big one.
General rule of thumb, they can pee wherever they want without being disturbed or like whatever. We're not being goggled.
Yeah, but I also kind of feel like it's kind of like what we've experienced here, that if people go up onto the lab and they see Ant Village, we've had some people that have come by and they lost their shit. And it's like, because they didn't take the time to understand what Ant Village was. And it's like, but I wrote about this. I wrote about this before I even moved on the land. I basically said, I think what I originally wrote it was that we'll allow anybody onto base camp. And then, and this is me just talking about how there would be two properties, and there would be one that's base camp, and there'd be another one that's going to be, and I think at the time I called it the land, and now we call it the lab. But on the land, that no one's even allowed on there unless they've listened to 12 podcasts. I just made that up. But it's like there could be other criteria that you could have. And then you're only allowed into the first section, and there's 4 sections. And you don't get into the second section unless you meet this bigger criteria. And that's because, and I keep picking on Jocelyn's mother in this respect. And so if Jocelyn's mom comes here,
that's because I don't want her mom at this part of the property.
if Jocelyn's mom comes here and looks at base camp, she's going to think that the Fisher Price house, oh, that's a nice house.
Right.
And then you take her up to show her Cooper Cabin, and she's like, oh, this seems a little rough. I think Cooper Cabin's 10 times more beautiful than the Fisher Price house.
Right.
But it's a different set of values. And then we point to a willow feeder, and I think that Jocelyn's mom is going to call the authorities and report it,
That's why you shock them in the beginning and then lower them. Like show them the willow feeder first, and they're like, oh my God, and then show them the next one, and then you end at the Fisher Price. It's like, okay, normalcy is here again.
See, and I just kind of feel like if you say, okay, food systems, it's like they're going to expect that everything has to be growing in rows, and it has to be an orchard. And if it looks too wild, they're going to be like, that food isn't safe.
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like there's going to be a permaculture that you're going to show to the general public, and the whole system is going to be designed top to bottom so that Jocelyn's mom would be impressed.
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked about that. That was a.
And then if you go up to section 1 on the lab, then it's kind of like people that are like at eco level 2 will be impressed.
Right.
And then if you go to the next section, it's people that are at eco level 3 will be impressed.
Right, right. So you got to be at eco level. You should be at the eco level below, one step below the area to be able to see it. Right. So somehow you confirm, all right, you're eco level 3. That means you have access and can view eco level 4 of the property.
Right, right. So,
Yeah.
you know, you have what it takes to be able to live at base camp. And because you have what it takes, you know, as opposed to just visit base camp, but you have what it takes, we will allow you to live at base camp. And we will allow you to visit section 1 and section 2 of the lab. But you're not allowed to visit section 3.
You know who does this? Very
You'll
simple.
you'll just think it's crazy, and we don't need that shit. Who does this?
Scientologists.
They do?
Yeah, yeah. So basically, until you've reached a certain level, you can't know certain shit about Scientology. Otherwise, you'll think it's fucking crazy.
Well, then I think that system they have is smart. You know, but I mean, I think that I'm sure that there's got to be something in the rest of life that where I totally look at athleticism. You know, well, no, because we worship athleticism so much.
No, I get what you're saying. The military does
But
it.
it's like the whole idea of, like, you know, playing basketball. It's a fucking game.
Right, right.
And it's like, but no, people will like train in basketball all day, every day for decades, at the hopes that someday they'll go pro. And it's kind of like the amount of work that they have to put in. I mean, I think if it wasn't for the romanticism that we have over athleticism, then I think that a lot of people would be like, that's just nuts. That's just crazy. Get a job. And of course, now in 2018, something has happened that I didn't think would ever happen. And we have people where they are professional game players, like video games.
Yeah.
And apparently they make big money. And it's like,
yeah, the ones that do like they do YouTube videos or streaming videos.
I don't know.
People like, I've seen these. People come on there. They're watching someone play. The person who's playing is like explaining shit to them as they're playing this game. And the fucking donation bars are going nuts. People are like, $5, awesome tip, $5. Like, there's like they got 1,000 people watching them play this video game, and money's streaming in, man.
All right, so I think that it's pretty reasonable. I mean, another thing is that it's kind of like it's kind of like the thing that I say about Apple Computer, or pretty much. I mean, I worked in software engineering industry for ages, and what would happen is I would pull up to a campus. And then I had to show them my badge, or I couldn't bring my car into the parking lot.
Right.
And then I'd get out of the parking lot, and I'd go up to the gate to the buildings, to the campus, badge in. I'd wave my badge in, and I'd go into there. Then I would go to the building I'm supposed to go to, badge in. And then I get to the elevator, and I'm badging, and I'm hitting the floor that I go to.
Yep.
And then I get down to the end of the hall. I got to badge in again.
Yep.
I go through layers and layers. And of course, if somebody else is working in some other department on this campus, they're not allowed into my building.
Yep.
And if they did come into my building, they might think that the shit that we were doing was fucking nuts.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not like it's that unusual.
No, it's not. Yeah, I was joking. I mean, the military does it too. You have to be a certain rank before you can go into this building or this office club or this gym, things like that. Because, well, not only because, you know, you might think it's crazy or whatever, but for that example, the military at least, you don't want to lower enlisted seeing officers having a good time, like relaxing and fucking enjoying themselves. So you don't allow lower enlisted into that area, into the officers' lounges and stuff. Anyway.
That's all. I think we're getting into a whole different topic. The important thing is that, okay, so here you're showing that, and I'm kind of thinking like, wow, I had never thought of that before. I could see trying to integrate something like that into what I'm doing, but I don't think I would want to deal with more than 15. And at the same time, I mean, here we are, we're struggling with so much stuff already. And we've got, I think Joss was something, we currently have 15 bunks. And you know, they're all set up to be rented out. And
Right.
it's like, oh, it's so much work. And I know I tried to talk to Joss Nolan about moving in the direction of a permaculture Disneyland here. And there's a lot of times when I start talking about things and I started bringing up, I was talking about possibly doing a new round of the, because we did that 0.60 cords of wood with a rocket mass heater last winter. And I thought, I think I want to put it on the list to do what it takes to try and hit 0.25 cords of wood. And she immediately got frustrated with a lot of the things I was talking about. And it's kind of like, you know, finding the people to do that work. And then, of course, you know, that's going to get dirty and this other thing's going to get dirty and it's just going to be dirty, 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 dirty. And somebody's got to clean all that up. And so when you're talking about like, I want to be able to do this thing, and it's kind of like, okay, first thing, you're going to hire a bunch of people to clean up because you would think that these people would clean up after themselves or keeping a lot of their mess inside of their RV, but you would be surprised.
Yeah, but I mean, that also comes with the price. I think you get a lot less of the people leaving trash around, dirty stuff, the higher the price is. So most RV parks I go to, they have one camp host for this 60 people, or they'll have a camp host that's in charge of like just the area and like making sure that's all good. And then they have the office where there's like 2 people that work the office that are there for 8 hours a day. They're just doing check-ins and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, you know, maybe there's a magic number at 50 there that I don't understand.
Well, these are also places that don't have permaculture going on and like animals running around and shit. So.
Well, I like the idea that you could have something where it's really nice, and then rather than, because a lot of times you're probably going to a lot of these and it's like, look at that lawn, they're mowing it way too low, and you can tell that they're, you know,
why aren't they using clover? I mean, these are all
their chemicals.
This is tons of example shit you can be putting like on signs at each spot, like this lawn is clover and this is why, and this is the kind of clover it is, or this is the mix that we have for the animals that are coming through and stuff like that. I mean, there's all kinds of educational things you can be teaching people that are, and you're getting a constant flow. I mean, you could put if it becomes popular enough, you could put a limit on it and say the most you can stay here is for 2 weeks at a time, and then you got to take a week off before you can come back for another 2 weeks.
Right.
So that we can get people flowing through here and seeing these systems.
So the big thing is that infecting brains, and so then I think that the point that you're making is, are you infecting brains 15 at a time or like 100 at a time?
Right. And so, giving them a really enjoyable temporary experience with it, like something that they're just a week or 2 experience with it. And then they're out. You know, they're on their vacation or whatever. There's just a lot of these people, or they're just on vacation, or they're traveling through, and they see this really kick-ass place. A lot of these people are like, we just go until we find something we really like, and then we stay for like weeks or months, and then we just move on again to the next thing.
So it's possible that what you could do is set something up like what you've drawn here that will support 15. And then once you get it to the point that it's 90% full and you've got cash flow, you might build up enough reserve so that you're going to be like, now we're going to expand it to 30.
Yes. Or I was thinking, my original thought was I would like to have like this little piece right here. Like have one of those in each state. A little 5-acre lot that's got 3 places, spots on it, and I'm just renting those out all over the country, and that's how I get my start. I just buy little 5-acre pieces of property. They're cheap. I can find them in most areas. Like I don't have to do a lot of searching to find the perfect spot. if I'm looking at 5 acres versus 100-acre property. And so I can find like 50 5-acre plots all over the country and get those set up. And then once money's flowing in from those, then we start like expanding until eventually we have little communities in every state that are like 60 or plus people.
Huh.
Anyway, it's a lot to think about. We're running low on time, so.
Okay, if you've got, like, let's say you're going to start with 15 people, and you're thinking like, and I might potentially expand this site to be 50. Mm-hmm. Therefore, I'm thinking your minimum size is 60 acres per site.
If you're going to do it that route.
I mean, because I'm kind of thinking like, I mean, you could do it smaller. But it's, the other thing is like, okay, you bring in an RV, and RV has an average of 3 people in it. So that would kind of suggest you need 3 acres per RV if you're going to feed them from the site. Unless, of course, you're doing something where you're importing a lot of organic matter or fertilizers, or which you don't want to do. Please don't do that.
Here's what I'm thinking. There's like 2 or 3 things that are edible at each campsite any time of the year. That's it. I don't need to feed them entirely from the site. What I just want is them to be able to see, okay, if I come here in April, I get this berry and this fruit and or this vegetable is at this site. That's on the list. Cool. I can add that to the food I'm cooking. That's the only experience I need them to have, at least in the beginning.
So, and
that alone, I think, is really cool. Like,
no, hey, it's cool, but I'm kind of, all right. So no, part of it is like that old joke about the 2 guys running from the bear. And so the one guy stops to tie his shoes, and the guy says, "What are you doing? The bear's right behind us. We're going to die." And he says, "Well, I figured out I don't need to outrun the bear. I just need to outrun you." So maybe it's a little bit like that. You're kind of like looking around all these little RV parks, and it's like none of them have a permaculture flavor to them. And so then all you got to do is be, better than them in that regard, which is not very much. Whereas, we started this and you said, you were asking me about like what would be my design ideas. My design ideas is like, I'd like to get to the point that 80% of the food for these people would come off of the land. Oh, yeah. And that it would require minimal maintenance, that they would be able to see the food and the plethora of different stuff that's growing. Now, I do kind of think that you might want to limit yourself, but like for the most part, like every plot here has these 20 things growing, and here's pictures, and you can understand like when they're available, and you can, and then you could, grab hold of them and say, that's a tomato that is ripe. These tomatoes are green. They are not ripe, and you don't want to eat those. But once they've turned red, it's safe to eat them, and now you can eat them. So now we've overcome that problem that people had. And then at the same time, be able to say, tonight for dinner, there's going to be burr, 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 burr. And so I'm out here picking stinging nettles. Today we're going to harvest a whole bunch of stinging nettles. And so then, play that game. Yeah. But yeah, I was kind of thinking like, because for permaculture, to me, it's about the food system. I mean, I came to permaculture from gardening and food systems. And so I'm kind of thinking like, no, I want to solve the world's problems with permaculture. And so rather than them bringing in a bunch of outside foods and eating instant outside foods, I want to make sure that they are eating from the food system.
I want to make sure that they are eating from the food system and that they get to add a little bit to it, to their existing food system. Because if I'm going to do this like the Disneyland, I don't want. They're going to have a more pleasurable experience bringing their own food and just adding a couple of ingredients right from the campground that they were at, than having to go harvest their full thing for every meal, or like having that mentality like, oh, I'm going to go here and I don't have to worry about food because I just go off the land. Well, I think the chances of your experience being negative are a lot higher doing that because the food might not turn out the way you want, or there's a lot of processing that's got to be done before your food's ready for your meal, things like that. Where it's, if you just plan on coming with your meals, maybe on the website we have, hey, are you coming on this date? This is what's going to be available to pick. Here are some suggested meals to bring that you can add these ingredients to brighten up your food. It's just, I think you get a higher effect of brains in that you have a higher percentage of positive experiences. Like if you just look at infecting brains with permaculture, the more people you affect with the higher experience rate, the better. So like if I can affect 5 people and they're getting like the full experience and loving it, like everything is permaculture to the max, or can I affect 1,000 people where they're getting a piece of permaculture that they're like, whoa, that's really cool. I think that's more important, because when I do those things, the next time they see something like something you're doing, which is much more like, if they go in much more advanced into permaculture, they're going to see that and remember the positive experience they had with Josiah over here. That's going to encourage them to continue on to your stuff and dive more into it or deeper into it. So I think I probably gear towards the people that aren't 100% permaculture. They're not 100% permaculture down yet, or they're even, maybe they've never had permaculture before. I want to give them the positive experience and get them into permaculture and point them to, or make them more susceptible to finding your information and diving deep into it.
So, okay, I've now have a couple more thoughts to add. One is, it seems like it would be good to have some spaces that are great for like have a lot of diversity in spaces. Some spaces where you can, connect up your tank and on the spot, and some spaces that don't have that. Maybe some spaces have pull through and some do not. Kind of like what you're talking about. But at the same time, I think, maybe the thing to do is to kind of have something where it's like, this area is for anybody to come in here. We're going to assume you're level 2. Maybe even have an area that's like, this is for level 0 people. This is a permaculture site, and you're stopping by because the location is convenient or whatever, not because you're into permaculture at all.
Right.
And then there's another area that's reserved only for people that are like level 2 permies. They're like, like you basically ask them a question. Like if I say SEP, you say
Holzer, or
oh, you're in, buddy.
Right.
And then there's like another level that's beyond that. That's, so I don't know, each one, so people can visit the other areas while they're there, but only the people that are certain levels stay at the ones that are designed for the certain levels.
Yeah, that's something you can do like on the website, because most if not all check-ins are from websites. Like when you go to register for a website, people are going to Good Sam, they're looking at the Good Sam campus sites, go to those, okay, click on the website, book my spot. And they're doing that because they're planning like 10 of these in advance, right? That they're going to go visit. So on your website, you have, it's level 0 is this much. It's the most expensive one. Level 2 or 1, 2, 3, you go down the levels and the price gets lower, but the amenities aren't the same. That'd be kind of a cool thing. You click on level 0 and up pops the picture of a regular campsite that they'd be used to seeing. With the, like, maybe there's little differences, but there's videos for each one. Level 2, that'd be cool. I think doing it as a business to start with, like if I was doing it at your property, I'm like, hey Paul, I'm going to set up an RV site at your property. Will you take me on? And you're like, yeah, that's cool. All right. So the first thing I think I would want to do, or to do this in stages so that you can build up revenue. Like if someone wants to go and do this at Paul's and Paul's cool with it, is first start with the roads. Hey, it's just a road. These are the spots where you can stay. That's it. There's no fucking electricity, none of this other stuff. And then, so you're coming at that with not putting in a huge investment up front. because this shit gets really expensive the further you go into it. So you don't want to start, or most people aren't going to be able to start with, yep, I'm going to have 20 sites. They're all going to have full electric hookups and what? I mean, that stuff gets really expensive. So
Yeah.
you got to stage your way up into those kind of things, into the more advanced stuffs. But think big ultimately, but start small. Like start with, these are the roads. Okay, I built a road, and here's the spot where they're going to park their shit. And that's it. That's what I have for sale. And see if you get some rentals and start doing those rentals that way. Use your marketing brain. You got access to Paul's property and lots of cool shit going on all the time. Maybe you can get people to camp that way. Start making some money. All the money that you make that way goes into advancing the campsites and making those level 0s, level 1s, 2, 3s, 4s areas.
Okay. I think, and then the other thing, of course, here is like being able to do it in the wintertime. Do they have many of those kinds of sites that are open in the wintertime in Montana?
Not Montana. In fact, no. No, usually, I mean, some of them are. They're like plowed out. You have to do a lot of plowing. Anytime it snows, you're out there plowing.
We drove up to the lab today, and we haven't plowed any of that.
You're not where I'm at.
Okay. All right. So,
you guys get a lot less snow than us for some reason. I mean, it's not very far south from us, but we just get a lot of snow.
what's your precip?
57.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're in sloppy, wet country.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're way past.
Yeah,
Ready
we
to
are.
call it?
Yeah. Hey, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, here's what I got for you, or an idea. If someone wants to draw this out, like a base map of what you envision a RV site to be, or maybe it's this exact one, send it to us. And I would like to continue this further, and we'll use your base map as to draw on, if you want to do that. So send it to josiah@permaethos.com, and I'll take a look, and maybe we'll use it to start drawing up. I think it's a cool idea that we could expand on further and talk more about. Hope you enjoyed the show, everybody. We'll see you next week. For those that are part of the Patreon, Paul's Patreon, or Permaethos students, stick around or show up early. Either way, you get special access to our customer-only area where we're chatting with people right now. I see we got a bunch of chats to go through. And we talk about all kinds of stuff, not online, the offline part. We did it earlier. I don't know if we go a little long. Sometimes we don't do it afterwards. We might stick around for another 5 minutes or so to talk to those peoples, our special peoples. But go check out Paul Wheaton's Patreon and Permaethos. Become a student, and we'll get you an invite into the back end. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
Bye!